something there. I think we can approach our local politicians as well and ask for some change, ask for some questions to be asked of our government.
They're all frightened.
Maybe we can get better access, maybe our politicians can push this.
To the MS man, at what critical condition were you when you decided to commence taking cannabis oil?
As I said, I work in radio, so I need to be switched on, I need to be able to think straight and talk straight. And so for me, cannabis was a last resort. As I understood cannabis, it meant I was going to be in a position where I couldn't speak properly and perhaps I would be high all the time. I just didn't know because I didn't know the facts. I'd got to the point where the pain that I was experiencing in my extremities was just beyond anything I could deal with. I'd gotten to the point where I couldn't walk properly. I'd gotten to the point where I couldn't speak properly. I couldn't find my words. As someone who speaks for a living, that becomes very difficult. There was a whole bunch of conditions that had gotten to the point where I thought, if it gets any worse, I'm just going to be a basket case and it's all downhill from there. I'm just going to become a recluse at home. So at that point, I made the decision that I was willing to try anything and stuff the law. As far as I was concerned, I was only prescribing to myself, and therefore I didn't think that it was affecting anybody else, and therefore I'll give it a shot. Using the black market stuff, and I won't talk about where it came from or the quality of it or anything else. All I can say is that it worked for me. It worked well, but I was not confident about the source of it. I was not confident about the quality of it or the efficacy, the potency or anything else. There was just no consistency. And that was why, when I first discovered that medicinal cannabis was being mooted in Australia, I decided to jump on that as quickly as I could and put whatever effort I could behind it. And you can imagine as well, for someone who's in the public eye, it's quite a dangerous thing to do because you're drawing attention to yourself. But when I hear stories like these stories, it puts mine into insignificance. And that's when I realised that, as I said before, as far as I'm concerned, compassionate use of this substance goes well beyond any desire to enable. I'm sorry?
You still pay for it out of pocket once you access it?
When I access...
Yeah, but once you've gone through the green tape and access, do you still pay?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah. It's forever. I've got to keep paying on and on and on. It's not on the PBS yet. And this is, I'm sorry, I'm going to steal the mic just for 5 seconds. At this point in time, I am taking thousands of dollars worth of medication each month, which is multiple sclerosis medication. If I can stop taking some of that stuff and start taking this, I'm going to save the government thousands of dollars a month. And that's just me. Never mind everybody else who's got multiple sclerosis and other neurological conditions. Yeah, that's right.
You're actually subsidising cannabis for patients as well, so
yeah.
it should be
So
pretty quick on the government.
there's a massive saving for the government to be had here. And I think maybe that is one of the most compelling arguments that we need to push forward.
That'd be good motivation then.
They're not interested.
So we've got
that.
So just in terms of the legislature, and reading it's said that, okay, you can prescribe for MS, but the CEO seems to have a lot of discretion to be able to just prescribe it for other medical issues. Have you heard of what other circumstances that the CEO has actually granted the request?
My understanding it's for, yes, for MS, for forms of epilepsy, for some instances of chronic pain, and particularly for chemotherapy-induced nausea in people with terminal cancer. They are the 4 ones that essentially are in at the moment.
For some,
I have heard of one patient.
There are probably others.
I've heard of one patient who's got it for PTSD, which I'm really keen to follow up on. I've got a brother in the Defence Force, and I think not a lot else works for these patients, so I'm working with a few PTSD patients together. That's the one as well.
Hi, Samantha Tilbury. I'm a parent of a child with epilepsy, former Senate candidate for the Health Australia Party last year. What I'm trying to understand is, I love that you guys have got all this information, but according to the AMA WA of a few months ago, Dr. Miller, he said none of our WA doctors had applied for a licence to prescribe cannabis. What are you guys doing to promote that with our doctors here in WA? Because clearly we've got one doctor, one neurologist who's able to do that. If that's a WA doctor, then clearly Dr. Miller from our AMA is wrong. So how many more doctors are there? Where are they? And how can we get a list of them?
There's 3 doctors at PMH that are approved prescribers of cannabis. Neurology.
I know of a bunch more, but they're not releasing lists, so you might have.
No, but they won't release lists, and as Jason said at the moment, people who are doing it don't want to get inundated, and you can understand why. The AMA has nationally about 30% of doctors are members of the AMA. In this state it's a little bit more than that, so they don't speak for all doctors. And his comments, more or less saying, well, they weren't applying because there wasn't the evidence. That's his view of the world. It's a fairly self-serving view. There are a number of reasons why people might not be prescribing, including the difficulty of doing it, concerns about that, all the points I suppose I have on that slide about issues. It's multifactorial.
Yeah, and just to note that the first round of seminars that we actually did earlier in the year were all for practitioners and health professionals. So we are doing it. It's just there is a
growing number. There's a small amount, but some of the biggest barrier I believe is the government paperwork at a state level. A lot of doctors want to prescribe it, but they do. They just don't have 30 hours to write up one prescription.
There you go. I'll keep it short and sweet if I can. I was in a horrendous road accident crash a few years ago. At the start of this year I was on over 10 prescription medications, including a lot of opioids. I've ditched all of that now in for CBD of it. I don't use anything else. I have a full-time job. I exercise like 6 days a week. And well, that's brilliant. It's changed so much. The question is, for someone like me who uses medical marijuana on a daily basis, how do you think, as far as like driving would go, so there is THC in your blood still, how do you think it should be regulated?
South Australian model?
Yeah, I can talk to it.
He's the testing guy.
Yeah, and I mean it's so the technical challenge with any drug. I won't move around. Sorry. The technical challenge, right, with any drug that's being ingested like that, so it's orally. You think about your breath test model, right? It's a 0.05, but there's a curve that kind of defines what your blood alcohol is, and it's all around your impairment. There's very little data out there that can be used to build a model like that for this type of product. And so the challenge we're going to have, and we're talking to law enforcement about this, is okay, how do we deal with this? My advice, and this might not necessarily suit everyone, is we definitely do not want to complicate this process that we're doing here with trying to fix that yet. And so I believe it will take a similar approach to the rest of them. So your barbiturates or whatever it is, you don't drive when you're under the influence of these drugs. And that'll be the standard, I believe, and then we'll work from there.
Can I address the more practical part of your question as someone in the same position as you? I risk an arrest for THC on what is a very dodgy test, as you will understand. The South Australian Parliament had legislation put through just in the past week that will allow police to not follow through if the person stopped for the traffic THC test is a declared and registered medical cannabis user. Some progress, but for you and me, we've got to wait.
Good question.
Earlier on, someone said contacting politicians. My wife was diagnosed with terminal cancer, pancreatic cancer, in January. The chemotherapy and the opiates was killing her. We found an illegal supply of cannabis oil, and while we were going through these stages, I wrote 2 emails to Roger Cook. One was stating, why can't I get access to doctors in Western Australia that can give me this? And the other one was, what are they doing to increase the doctors prescribing this? My doctor told me that she could become a co-prescriber. I don't know what that is. But I did mention in both emails to him that I was importing my cannabis oil through Australia Post. And it was coming through Australia Post. Unfortunately, I don't know whether this is a coincidence or not, but 3 weeks later, there was an article on the television that Australia Post had done an audit and they caught 85 different parcels of drugs coming through the post into Western Australia.
Yeah.
So I felt guilty then, thinking that I was stopping other people getting cannabis oil.
No,
so
it's
I'd
not
be
you.
careful what you say to politicians, because I don't believe they're any use to any of us.
Yes, I've got, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I've got a letter. All right, go ahead. I've got a letter from my GP who absolutely thinks I should have it. I've got MS and I'm in constant pain. And I'm taking too many strong painkillers and I can't sleep. So I should definitely, he thinks I should, I've got it with me and he said you just have to go into the seminar tonight and find a doctor that'll order it.
Too easy.
Also, we're back to that problem and pick up another point. A co-prescriber is a bit like some other medications. Any medications, it can include some of the opiates that are authorised drugs or Schedule 8 drugs, need to be initiated by a specialist. That specialist can then nominate a GP as a co-prescriber. So you can't go to your GP and say, can I have a script? If you've been to the specialist who said, yes, you can be approved for this, then they can nominate your GP to then do continuation scripts, so you don't have to be constantly going back to the specialist.
This will have to be our last question because it's getting very close to closing time. So I think
I mean, obviously 90% of people in this room are desperate. How do we find a doctor? Do we doctor shop? How do you find a doctor?
I think
That
it's
will
inhumane that this list isn't publicised. There's people that are really suffering and you're not able to put this list out there. It's only in the rest of things in the world that when the supply is shown that the demand is met. So if we're not able to show our supplier or
just keep asking your doctor. I kept asking my doctor, and you just have to keep asking assertively.
The best place to start is a local GP. What we are finding is specialists, especially neurologists and pain specialists, there's a really long waiting times, and in a lot of cases, doctors or GPs will drive this process. Patients that are chronically ill see their GP in some cases on a weekly basis, and they're well placed to monitor afterwards. So quite a few prescriptions we're seeing coming through now, the GPs are driving it, they're getting a sign-off from a specialist.
Red tape. It's all red tape. I've been asking for 3.5 years.
We agree, yeah.
So
3.5.
We agree. The GPs have a list of specialists and
So
they have a list of.
And just touching on the supply demand, as you mentioned before as well, it also affects producers because producers can only get production permits that equal the demand they can quantify.
And let's self-medicate.
So it's quite a savage cycle there.
Self-medicate, like the Canadians did, and then phase it out.
we're going to have to leave it there, everybody. Thank you so very much for all coming and giving us your attention and your questions. To approach our speakers after we leave the venue outside. I'd like you all to put your hands together for our speakers tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much and see you later.